Hi, I'm Unity Minister, Reverend Paula Skiles from Unity Church of San Marcos. We are about 2/3 of the way through our year 2021, and it seems to me that there are a whole lot of us that are just real ready for this year to be over and pretty much exhausted with all of the stuff from COVID and everything else that's going on. I don't know about you, but I've heard from so many people things like, if I didn't have bad luck, I'd have no luck at all. Or, there's just nothing I can do about this situation. And there's just general sense of helplessness. But here's what I want you to hear me say, is that you and I are not meant to hold up the sagging beams of our faith all alone. But who are you going to call? And that reminds me of that wonderful movie from many years ago called Ghostbusters. And in it, there is a line that says, "Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters." And it's about a team of people who are sent all around town, and they take care of ghosts and other paranormal entities and remove them, the ones that have been causing trouble. And along those lines, I've titled this message, "Who You Gonna Call? Godbusters." And it's about all of those small gods that we have made out of the beliefs that were based on fear or false evidence appearing real. And the question comes down to, how do you remove them? How do you remove them? Well, believe it or not, something as simple as denials and affirmations are a spiritual tool that you can use that many people forget because it seems so simple, but they are very powerful. And I would like to share just some thoughts. What are some of these little gods that we have made? And by that I mean these beliefs that have no power but what you and I give them. And so let's talk about it for a second. Believing that we inherit sickness or weakness and disease, or even that spirit uses it to punish people. Or believing that money and financial good are very scarce and that there's not enough to go around, and so you and I have to grab all we can while we can. Or believing that other people can keep good from us, our good. And believing that we can control our addictions while they control our lives. Another little god is believing that we are limited by our age or our race or ethnicity or our education, and letting other people tell us what we can and cannot achieve in life. I don't know about you, but to me those are just little gods, because I've recognized them for myself long ago, that those were false evidence appearing real. You and I can replace those, what I think of as negative beliefs and thoughts and limiting ones, with affirming, life-giving thoughts and beliefs. It takes practice. It takes a lot of practicing truth, affirming principles. And in the face of evidence to the contrary, that is what is called for. So we use the power of our voice, and we use the power of spirit and the principles of truth, which are very real, and they have strength and power within themselves that you and I can draw on whenever we're looking to create something in life, making our lives better. And the more you and I hold those truth principles as we affirm and use denials and affirmations, the more our lives reflect truth. Once you accept a thought into your minds and your feelings, and you repeat it to yourself day after day, that actually becomes your truth. Imagine a very stark room, and there's all the walls are bare, and everything is very stark. There's just a window, a very tiny window, and a door in this room, and it's not lit up except through what light comes in through the window. And again, this is a very tiny window. Also, there is a person in this room. This person can only see out of that little tiny window, and they have never been able to leave this room. They've always been in this room. When they look out the window, what do they see? A very small segment of a desert scene. And to them, you can just imagine how important this dried up desert scene is. To them, that is the world. That is reality. And imagine too that at some point the individual is standing and looking out the window, as they do very often, and they hear a still small voice that says, "There is so much more to the world. It is bigger than you can imagine, with rivers and trees and clouds and so much beauty." Now, of course, the person who is musing about this statement might be like, "Wow, what's a tree? What would be a river?" And so there might be a few moments of that, and then it would be like, "But I know that this world, I can see what it is. I can see it's just this. This is all there is." And I wonder, if you were that person in that room, what choice would you make? Would you open the door as the voice suggests? Because that's what the voice says. All you have to do is simply open the door. Or would you stand there and think, "I can see what's out there. I can see it, and it's nothing else. There's nothing else there." If you and I were to think about the things that we see every day, the places we go and where we go, do we see ourselves as limited to that? Is that our world? Gratefully, there is more. For me today, the world is filled with spiritual facets of truth and wonder and joy. And there's a deep, tangible sense of a reality that is more than what my physical eyes can see around me and that I take in as evidence and facts. How many of us spend so much time on how we look to others and trying to fix problems that we really don't have any control over? And my thoughts are this: if you and I can just take those moments in which we hold some false evidence appearing real, remember that's a fear-based belief that we feel is very real, and recognize that they are incapable of lifting us up, of taking us into a greater good, of helping us to see. And it takes some reflection, it takes some time to discern which of our beliefs really do lift us, really do help us to create a greater and more wonderful sense of good and truth in our life. I mentioned the denials and affirmations, those little God busters. Those little gods are struck down by a denial. And what is a denial? It is a statement using the power of truth to create a shift, not only within our belief structure, but within our own thinking and our own responses and the actions that you and I will take. And it's not denying the power, it's not denying that a circumstance exists. It's denying the power that that has to continue to create problems in our lives, or to continue to diminish and lessen the lives we live. Denials can wipe away a lifetime of false beliefs. By denial, we declare a truth statement that takes the power away from that situation. And in it, you and I are owning that that exists only by the power that we're giving it anyway. And an affirmation is a statement of truth that opens you and I up to new possibilities and new awareness and new beginnings and things that we may have only just kind of had that little whisper of truth speaking to our hearts for. And I'm reminded of what Jesus said in John 7:24. Do not judge by appearances, but judge by right judgment. Right judgment means that higher level of thinking that you and I are capable of, that God mind that you and I have access to. Jesus referred to it in Matthew this way: the kingdom of heaven is at hand. It's amongst you and I. And he was not saying it's something that we have to go to after we die. He's saying it's not something coming. It's here. It's now. It's available. It's for you and I on this plane, on this level of existence, not after we've died. And so it's not something coming. But there is a simple note to understand. You can take a number of words and put them together that sound positive, but simply repeating the words will produce ineffective results. They can be temporarily life-changing, but not necessarily permanently. So denials and affirmations need to be rooted in principles of truth in order to affect the experience of that realm of heaven that Jesus was referring to. Here's another little Godbuster. It's not important that you and I believe the statements that we're making whenever we start. Because what is happening is you and I are aligning our thinking with the virtual laws of God, which are irrefutable. And when we do that, we are creating the essence of God flowing through us and through our lives and through our voice even. And we're affirming not that we're changing the world, we're changing the conditions within ourselves, which over time, as we affirm through this power of truth and principles of truth as we use them, then what happens is we are able to have our lives reflect that we are affirming and letting go of. So what I'm saying is, you and I aren't meant to defy the laws of gravity, get off a top of a high building and jump off thinking we'll have no harm to our body, or that you and I can take an apple tree and grow shoes off of it. You know, this is not the type of thing that affirmations and denials are about. And neither is the principles of spirit. The principles follow the laws of God, and they follow the laws of nature. And so you might think initially that these statements feel like they're not true. They're just not true. But if they are based on the principles of truth, such as strength or faith or power or understanding or wisdom or healing and health, all of these things have their own innate life force because they are of spirit. So when you use a statement of denial or release, you're not denying the existence. You're declaring that that circumstance no longer has power over you. And when you use an affirmation, in short, You are affirming something that will build up and strengthen your life. And that the things that you are affirming are life-giving. So, who are you going to call? God busters. When my dear friend, Reverend Robin Volker's stepson, Ricky, had a very bad accident, an auto accident, he was hospitalized for a very long time and his muscles atrophied. He couldn't even move his arms and legs. But as the physical therapist worked with him, the muscles remembered what it was they were supposed to do. And when you and I are working with spiritual truths, we're allowing ourselves, our mental abilities, our feelings, and our thinking to remember how to connect to the realm of heaven, to remember that that is within us. And we will begin to reshape our thinking, removing the atrophy of fear, and remembering that which will reshape the outcomes of our life. So your being remembers that you are spirit first and a physical body second. In other words, you will begin to regain use of your spiritual power. I can describe a thunderstorm, but it cannot convey the smell of rain or the loud crashes of thunder or huge drops of water pouring down any more than by saying the words, God is love, and can be experienced within the silence of your being, can match the absolute immensity of the pure unconditional love that God is when you experience that. Even if you see it in writing and it's all caps or someone is yelling it, the only way you'll know the truth is to leave that window of what you see and walk through that door of opportunity. Denials and affirmations do not change situations, circumstances, or people, but they do change you and how you respond to those situations, circumstances, and people. It's not about making something happen. It's about accepting God's goodness unto your life at a much deeper and more full level. Let's take a person who has a chain smoking habit. That person might say, could not really say, I don't smoke as a denial because they do smoke. And it wouldn't work for them to say, I don't crave cigarettes, because the reality is they crave it constantly. But this person could repeatedly say, the strength of God releases me from my need for tobacco and cigarettes. And at the same time, holding Spirit's principles of strength and power while affirming that release. Calling on or conveying within yourself those powers or principles is essential to be used when we are speaking the word. And it's recognizing that the person who's making this statement, if you're making this denial, so to speak, is not saying that that doesn't exist, that it doesn't exist. It's saying that it doesn't have any power outside of what you give it. And in doing so, you can, honestly, the mind just opens up to this potential where you can walk through that door and recognize that smoking is not an inevitable part of your life. One of Unity's co-founders, Myrtle Fillmore, overcame tuberculosis after a diagnosis of her doctors said that there was no more than that they could do but to go home and for her to set her affairs in order, because their prognosis, she had less than 6 months to live. However, in prayer and reflection, Myrtle received a powerful understanding of truth, a declaration made by God into her heart and into her feelings that she used the power of this love and began to heal her body. her denial was, I do not inherit sickness, because that was her belief. And one of her affirmations was, I am a child of God. Health is my birthright. And that affirmation and that denial and other things that she used, such as, her visualization and then loving her body. It took 2 years, but she recovered not only from the tuberculosis, but lived a healthier life for the next 40-something years. Affirmations work not only in the realm of ideas, but also on our physical bodies. These earth suits that you and I have, they are very receptive to the words that we speak, especially when we put our feeling with them. And those are so essential. When you repeat these truth-based affirmations and denials or releases, you're actually programming your body to do those things which you are affirming. Psychologists refer to this as cognitive restructuring. It's actually redesigning our thinking. And for someone who may be struggling with self-esteem issues, I can remember when I was a younger woman that I did. And one of the things I did was I would look in the mirror with as much love as I possibly could into my own eyes and tell myself, I love you just the way you are. I love you. And it wasn't something I believed at first. It wasn't something I believed I was capable of being, which was to be loved. But holding that and holding it over time, there came a point where I knew it. And I'm telling you, tears just flowed through me as it just washed over me, the truth of that. And my self-esteem and my self-worth and my value changed and began to grow and to develop along the lines of Spirit's goodness. Same type of thing can happen when you and I have a negative medical issue, is that we can use things to help our bodies to be stronger, to move and overcome things. Things like a statement like, God and the power of God is healing me into health, perfect health right now. So beautiful statement. And maybe you don't believe it at first. But allowing yourself to hold all of what health holds for you and the strength or the will of God moving through you, however much you can do it, and through time and repetition, it becomes your truth. So when your life isn't being lived to the extent that you would like, or maybe even you've let your dreams go, or you haven't come through in the way, and you look at your life and you just go, huh? Is this all there is? I want you to know who you're going to call. I suggest Godbusters. I'll conclude with these 3 concepts of denials and affirmations. 1, it's a process of life in which truth is declared by thoughts, words, and deeds, regardless of appearances. 2, it is letting God remind us of who and what we are. 3, the denials and affirmation is not so much a life of declarations that you and I make, rather it is a sensitivity to the declarations God is making. Who are you going to call? Godbusters. God bless you as you take and let power of truth remove those little gods that you and I have made out of beliefs of fear. False evidence appearing real is not a reality, and not the allness of reality either. Bless you, and thank you for being with me.